Hi, I'm Doug Barry, an associate broker with Long Foster Real Estate in Maryland, and the creator of Your Daily Quiz, the #1 free site on the internet to help you get your real estate license. Today I'm going to talk about commissions math. Since this is our first lesson, I'm going to start with some basic math rules. First, use a simple calculator. More complicated calculators, such as a real estate calculator, have features that work against you. The worst feature is rounding automatically to 2 decimal places. If you make multiple calculations in one problem, that can throw off your final answer. Plus, some people will spend more time trying to figure out their calculator than they do trying to figure out the problem. Then get used to using it. Calculators work differently from each other. On the exam, you don't want to waste time thinking about how yours works. Learn and memorize basic math formulas. Practice each type of problem so you automatically know what to do. Then don't round off until the end. If you round off at every step, that can significantly change the final answer. The only exception is when you're paying out money. Then you have to round off to 2 decimal places. You can't pay somebody a portion of a cent. On a computerized exam, don't spend a lot of time on a problem the first time. If you're not sure how to do it, read it, take your best guess, and come back to it after you complete the rest of the exam. If you take a long time on one question, you may get it right and get 5 wrong at the end from not finishing. Next, check your answers. If you worked a problem backwards, work it forward to see if you get back to where you started. If math is not your forte, don't write off the math. I had one student that I was working with that decided that he could not do math. And every time we worked on math, he did nothing. He didn't do math homework. We would do a math exercise in class and he would sit there. And on our final exam, we had 10 math questions. He got every single math question wrong and he failed the final exam by 1 question. Now, if he had worked on the math, he would not have gotten all the math questions right, but he certainly would have gotten one of them right. So don't write off the math, make an effort. That's the main thing. You will get more right than if you don't make the effort. Now, one formula we will use more probably than any other formula is part over base times rate. You will see this in different formats. You'll see interest over rate times value. You'll see the pi formula, the t formula. It's all the same thing. We can use this formula in a lot of different situations. We can use it in tax problems, interest problems, appraising, profit or return. And for some reason, the easiest math for agents and budding real estate agents is commission problems. Now, on commission problems, the base is whatever you're talking about is based on. Commissions are based on the sale price. It doesn't matter what the house is listed for. If the house lists for $1 million and sells for $500,000, you don't get a commission on $1 million. It would be nice, but it doesn't work that way. Now, for example purposes, I'm going to keep the numbers easy. So I'm going to use a sale price of $100,000. Then the rate in most questions will be self-explanatory. Interest rate, tax rate, commission rate, rate of return, that's a clue that, hey, maybe that's the rate. Okay. So in commission problems, it will be the commission rate. For our example, I'm going to use 7%. Now, anytime we have 2 out of the 3 things, we can figure out the one we're missing. So the base times the rate will give us the part divided by the rate will give us the base, the part divided by the base will give us the rate. So if we have any 2 of those things, we can figure out the one we're missing. So now we've got $100,000 times 7%. We multiply that out, that will give us the actual dollar amount of the commission, which is $7,000. Okay. The part is the part or portion of the base that's being paid out or received. In a commission problem, it's the part of the sale price that's being paid out in commission, the actual dollar amount of commission that the seller is paying. Now, we can do this in any direction. So if we know the commission is $7,000 and we know the rate is 7%, then 7,000 divided by 7% will give us our $100,000 sale price. Okay. Anytime you know the top number, you start up top. It's like reading, top to bottom, left to right. Okay? The only time we don't start up top is when we don't know the top number. So if we start up top, 7,000, this line always means divide, so 7,000 divided by 7% will give us the $100,000 sale price. Okay. Then only the rate can be a percentage. It doesn't have to be a percentage. In tax problems, the rate normally will not be a percentage. But if you have a percentage in a problem, then that has to be the rate. Mathematically, the rate can be on either side. Okay. On most calculators, the percentage button means percent equals. So therefore, you want the rate to be over on the right side because that will work better on most calculators, certainly if you're using the simple calculator that I recommended. Okay. If you have a hard time with that, any percentage can be converted to a decimal by moving the decimal point 2 places to the left. So we move it 2 places to the left, 7% becomes 0.07. Any decimal can be converted to a percentage by moving the decimal point 2 places to the right. So 0.07 would become 7%. So 7% equals 0.07, 0.07 equals 7%. If you don't have 2 decimal places, put in a 0 so that you can move it 2 decimal places. Now we can use this same part over base times rate formula at multiple steps in the process. So once we get 100,000 times 7% and we get our commission of $7,000, once we have that $7,000, we may need to know the percentage that the salesperson gets. Okay. So when we're figuring out the salesperson's share, the total commission will be the base. So we have our base becomes the $7,000. Now let's say this salesperson gets 60% of all commissions they bring into their company. So that's a percentage, so that has to be the rate. So if we do 7,000 times 60%, that will give us our part, which is 4,200. That's the salesperson's share of the commission. We can also do this backwards. If we do 4,200 divided by 60%, that will give us the total commission of 7,000, and then we can go back to our original formula. 7,000 divided by 7% will give us our sale price. 7,000 divided by the $100,000 sale price will give us our 7% rate. Okay. The other thing that we can do is we can write out the entire process in the order that it happens. Now, when we're going in order, we always start with the sale price. Okay? You have to know the sale price before you can figure out any commissions. So I'm starting here, I'm using SP as our unknown for the sale price. The first thing that happens out of the sale price is we have to pay our total commission. So again, I'm going to use 7%. Then after we pay our total commission, the next thing that normally happens is that it gets split between the 2 brokers. So I'm going to use a 50-50 split. Doesn't have to be a split 50-50, but that's the most common situation. So we're going to use 50-50. Now at this point I have to choose either the listing broker or the selling broker. So for example purposes, I'm going to choose the listing broker. Okay. So the listing broker is going to get 50% of that total commission. The next thing that happens is we have to pay the salesperson. So we're going to use the same 60% split that our salesperson was on. And then we get a total commission of $6,000. That's the order that things happen. And you probably knew that before you even started the process of getting your real estate license. If somebody had asked you a year ago, could the salesperson get paid before their company got paid, you would have known the answer to that question, which is no. If somebody had asked you a year ago, could the company get paid before the seller paid the whole commission? You could have answered that question, which is no. And if somebody had asked you, could you pay the whole commission before you knew the sale price? You could have answered that question, which is no. So you knew how this worked before you started doing anything with real estate. Okay? So that's the order that things happen. Now, the order that things happen is important. If we do 2 plus 4 times 5, that'll give us 30. If we do 2 times 5 plus 4, that'll give us 14. So if you change the order that you do things, that could change your answer. So it's important things to do things in the right order. So that's the order that this happens. Now, the next thing that you notice is that we know our final answer, which is $6,000. The thing we don't know is the sale price. Okay. And so we're going to have to work backwards to the sale price. And anytime you're working backwards, you go in the exact opposite order. So we're going to go from here to here to here to here. And when you're going backwards, you do everything the opposite. Okay. So the last thing we did going forward was to multiply by 60%. So the first thing we're going to do going backwards is to divide by 60%. The opposite of multiplying by 60% is dividing by 60%. Okay. Now, if you don't believe me on that, just go under your calculator, do 100 times 60%, that'll get you 60. Then go 60 divided by 60%, that'll give you 100. So just keep doing that over and over again until it sinks into your head that the opposite of multiplying by 60% is dividing by 60%. Okay. So that's our first step, is 6,000 divided by 60%. That'll give us 10,000. Okay. Then the opposite, the next thing we did going forward was we multiplied by 50%. So the opposite of that is to divide by 50%. That'll give us 20,000. The last thing we did going forward was we multiply by 7%. So we do the opposite of that, divide by 7%. That'll give us $285,714.29. Okay. And that's our final answer. So you just work your way backwards to get the final answer. Okay. If you want additional information, you can go to my website, www.yourdailyquiz.com. A lot of math problems on there and a lot of information to help you get your real estate license.